Please. Hey, yo, shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before we start this off, we're going to give all praises and all honor and all glory to Yahweh and Yahweh only, forever and ever, by saying, Kal Yada, Wakabawad, Wahawad, La Yahweh, Wa YasharAL, Alam, Alam, forever, man. Hey, YasharAL or YasharALAH? That's a good question. And it's important that we know the difference. I know a lot of people, some people might have an understanding that, maybe it don't matter. It could be interchangeable. But as keepers of the Torah, and it's for people that go to the ancient path, which goes all the way back to what Yahweh means, right? We're going to say, okay, as we look more into this language, when things come to a surface, we got to point it out. And hey, this is going to be a correction to the whole nation. And I know that sound bold, and I'm not being like that. But if we're going to be in this so-called truth, then we have to be very careful. If we know we dealing with the Psalms 83ers, you know what I mean? Let's take a minute to think about what I'm saying. Like COINTEL, PSYOP, those type of things. When I get done with this little quick video, I want you to ask yourself and ask your teachers, ask your people that claim to hold these scriptures and read them and understand them. Why is little minor? Hey, some people might say it's minor because it's just a letter. But it's deeper than that. The more that we know that Yahweh, we have to get this in order. We got to get this in line. And if we go into the ancient way, the ancient path, the ancient language, one way that we doing this is going through the Torah. Right? That's how you learn who names were, everything. So, like, for instance, Genesis 32, we're going to start at 24. It say, this left Yaakov all alone in the camp. And a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. Remember, Yaakov was alone in the camp. Just keep that in mind. Verse 25. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Yaakov's hip and wrenched it out of his socket. Right? Then the man said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But Yaakov said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. All right. Verse 27. What is your name? The man asked. He replied, Yaakov. Right. They say, verse 28. Your name will no longer be Yaakov. The man told him, from now on, you will be called YasharAL, because you are fought with Yahweh and with man and have won. Okay, well, that it will actually say with all, or Allah, right here. So let's take a look at this real fast. All right. So I guess we're gonna see today how a little bit of my Paleo Hebrew is, or actually what they call the language of the Canaanites, or well, I'm coming from a site. It's called the Lashan Kodash, but don't worry, that's not the name of the language. Since I'm coming from the site, I might have to let you or show you where the name of our language is actually also. But we want to go to today. We're going to read into this Genesis 32. We're just going to do verse 28. We're going to be also using the Phoenician, or, well, I guess Canaanite, or I guess, well, the language of the Israelites as well, are our language. Okay. I'm going to be using that as well. So we have both those turned on. So also, just in case, if you prescribe to the modern Hebrew, then you can read along up there. But we're going to be focusing on the pronunciation of the YAHAWAH'S. All right. So, and we're going to be reading this chapter because, this verse, because we want to make sure that the name that Yahweh, the Most High, had given our ancestor is the name that we are calling on. When I say calling on, I mean as going by the name of, and not some other one that is a lineage from that person getting the reference of being the nation of, right? Like with the nation of YasharAL, for instance. And I'm going to try to prove today, well, it's going to be proven today that YasharAL is not the name. I'm just going to show. All right, let's get into this. So it says, and we're going to read, if you want to, you can follow along the letters up here. I'm not going to act like I'm busting it down like that. We're going to read the pronunciation as well, right? But understand that each dash would be basically where you would cut, where it's giving you a pronunciation, right? For instance, this says, We YasharAL, YAHAWAH'S, YAMAR, Hagayadaha, Hagayada, Salaka, Na'a, Shamaka, or Shamak, right? Yamar, and go over a little bit, right? It says, Lamaha, Zaha, Tasha'al, right? Tasha'al, do you ask? My name, he says, Lashamya, right? I believe this is verse 29, actually. I gotta, yeah, and forgive me of that. So what happened was the verses is sometimes on top. All right. So let's go back up here, right? All right, it says, my bad, y'all. All right. And he said, your name should be called no more Yahweh, but YasharAL, or as a prince that has, okay, this is it. All right. So my bad. Let's start over. Salat, y'all. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of nervous because, I'm just gonna say, it's like, this is something where I know some type of way somebody gonna try to find something to be a jerk about, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Instead of taking serious. But this is the name of our ancestors we're dealing with. I mean, who is the children of who Yahweh planted us from. Anyway, it says, Ya Amar La Aya Equa, Ya Amar, meaning to be, Iwa Shamaka. Here we go, right here. Kayam, which means like because, right? But here's the part. YasharAL. YasharAL. Right? All right, hold on. So let's take it to the BLB real fast. You know what I'm saying? Probably just take it a little bit at a time, you know. So this says YasharAL, right? YasharAL. Now, let's take a word. Let's take a look at what the root words of this. And this is another thing, because once again, we're dealing with the children of YasharAL, and somebody that's supposed to be in a nation then came telling us little things that, you know, if we don't go and search out and study for ourselves, we'll say stuff and then it show how much we do not know about ourselves. For instance, I've heard many a times that our ancestors' name means upright with Yahweh or with all. And that is not true. And we're going to prove it today. But we're also going to prove to you and show you where it does mean that at. All right. So let's go to the root word etymology for YasharAL, which is shara, right? Meaning to contend, have power, contend with, persist, exert oneself, preserve, to contend with, which is what now? Remember, let's take a quick second, quick back. Let's go back a little bit. All right. Let's go to, let me click this, what's in here? Now let's go back up to here, 28. Remember, because we got to remember what was his name and why was it changed? The reason YasharAL is going to get a certain name is because of what he did, right? YAHAWAH'S, his name before meant to supplant, right? A heel grabber, right? But now he has done something to make his name change, right? So let's go back and read this again. 28. Your name would no longer be YAHAWAH'S, the man told him. From now on, you will be called YasharAL. Why will it be called YasharAL? Because you have fought with all. Right? Now let's take a look back at what we was looking at for the word Shara, right? Shara, meaning what again? To contend. This is the root word for it. Remember, he called him YasharAL because he contended with all, right? So let's look at this again and see what is this about. Okay, we have Yah, Shah, Ra, Ah, and then the person will say, well, this is where you get La. But I want to show, so we're going to show something first. Before we get in there, I want to tell y'all this. If it was supposed to be a La at the end, it would have been an H there. Like YasharAL, right? And this is what I'm talking about. So this is where it gets interesting, and this is also where it's always important to know what you want to, know what you're looking for, know something before you go and asking anything. Try to have an understanding. Do as much as you can to find out on your own before you go and ask questions. So this is the perfect example of it right here. Okay, so I asked Jim and I said, okay, what about Israel and YasharAL? Would you like to discuss? It says, I say the name similarities in Hebrew. Okay, it goes on to tell me that the names Yisrael or YasharAL and YasharALAH have a significant similarity in their Hebrew roots. While there are distinct names, they share the Hebrew word yashar, which means straight or upright, right? So you got to stop right there. No, let's not stop because I'm going to keep this going real fast, right? So it tells us that it shares the root word yashar. Okay. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, okay. If I didn't know any better. So anyway, it says the name is famously given to Yaakov after he wrestles with an angel. The traditional interpretation is he who struggles with Yahweh, or one who prevails with Yahweh. So, however, an alternative interpretation, this they said a alternative interpretation. Now, I don't know what that means, but anyway, focusing on the root Yashar suggests one who is straight with Yahweh or upright with Yahweh. All right. So before we get into that, so I'm gonna go down a little bit before I get into the other part, just to make this interesting. I had to tell it not correct. Actually, the two words have different root words. If I didn't know that, if I didn't study for myself, if I haven't went out for myself, then this system, this little AI thing, if I or it's somebody on a video, anybody, your high priest in your camps, whoever's, you know what I mean? Just because they said something, if I didn't know, I would have been stuck right there, which is kind of my way right now of blowing the shofar, so to speak, and warning the people about this. It's important you do this for yourself, right? So I said, not correct. Actually, the two words have different root words. At this point, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe it's something I don't know, right? So it says, thank you for the correction. I appreciate you pointing that out. I made a mistake in my previous response. Let me clarify the distinction between the names and their roots. So now we're going to get into it. The name YasharAL is generally understood to be a compound of two words. Shara, meaning to rule or to contend, and Al or El, which is a name for Yahweh, the Most High, right? The name is interpreted as he who struggles with Yahweh, or El rules, right? Or Yahweh rules. The root is Shara, not Yashar. It's not me. This is Google or Gemini, this AI system correcting itself. The root is not, the root here is Shar, which means to struggle or to prevail, to contend, right? And it's telling me that it made that mistake. It's saying it's not Yashar. So wait, my problem with this is somebody that came into our lives as YasharAL, somebody, some type of way told us, yeah, because we're supposed to walk upright, which is definitely true. The scriptures tell us this. But somebody told us that just the name of our ancestor, YasharAL, his name meant upright with Yah, or upright with all. I'm saying it like that because that's what it you know what I'm saying? This is what it would be. But thing is, somebody might be like, don't pick. I'm not picking. I want to know, why did somebody tell us this? And were we meant not to study for our own? Were we meant not to question little things like, is somebody here controlling something? Even our language that we're supposed to be getting back, our roots, our culture. If you go to some Gentile or something, and you telling them you the children of another person in the scriptures, like say for instance, people say, hey, Yashaya and all of that, and a person that actually know the language, any language, any part, they would look at you and almost laugh, because you're saying something that you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm saying that because we need to understand that we have to get back to our ancient roots. We have to go to the ancient path. You know what I mean? All right, let's keep it moving. I don't want to do too much talking. Now, First Chronicles 25, right? This specific chapter is dealing with the duties of the musicians. And we all know that those musicians were all Levitical from the sons of Asaph, the sons of Aaron. We do know this, right? All right. So one thing that I have a problem with is we might read, but it gets deeper than just reading this in the language that, remember, we had to learn. Our ancestors came from all over. He came from, you know what I'm saying, West Africa and all that that's been scattered around. They, wherever they're scattered at, they're the people that first came and were slaves and all of that to those countries. They had to learn a strange language that they never known. Thus, here we go reading David and the army, verse 1. Commanders then appointed men from the families of Asaph, Haman, and Jeduthun to proclaim Yahawah's message to the accompanied of lyres, harps, and cymbals. Here is the list of their names and their work. I stop the video so you can go and read 1 through 7 and then come back. We're going to be at verse 8. All right. All right. It says the musicians were appointed to their term of service by means of sacred lots. Okay. Sacred lots. Remember, we shouldn't have to do this, but you know, we're not going to do this. Remember, sacred lots. They were casting Levitical lots. Only the Levites could do, right? It wasn't nothing like, ooh, right? Without regard, I know, right? Without regard to whether they were young or old, teacher or student, right? Now, this is also, when we get done with this, going to prove the magnificence of Yahweh and how he knows so much and beforehand that he's even the name that we're going to find out that's being confused with the nation of. We're going to show you that this man's name was already shown to be upright. We also know he was he was part of Levite. So, you know what I'm saying? Watch this. Verse 9, then the first lot fell on Joseph and Asaph clan and 12 of his sons and relatives, right? The second lot fell to Gedaliah and 12 of his sons and relatives. The third lot fell to Zachar and 12 of his sons and relatives. Y'all starting to see these 12s, right? The fourth lot fell to Zeri and 12 of his sons and relatives. The fifth lot fell to Nathaniah and 12 of his sons and relatives. The sixth lot fell on to Bechiah and 12 of his sons and relatives. Now the seventh lot fell on YasharAL, right? And 12 of his sons and relatives. Now, let's do something real fast. All right. So now let's take a look at this word from First Chronicles 25 and 14, YasharAL, right? Or YasharAL, or YasharALAH, YasharAL. Let's go into the Strong's H3480, and let's see what this says.
Strong's H3480. YasharAL. YasharAL.
Okay.
Second entry. YasharAL. YasharAL.
I hope that wasn't too bad. YasharALAH. Now, let's do a double back and go to the Phoenician language so we can see. All right. Just so we can make sure that everyone sees it. Font, Phoenician. We're going to click yes on the Phoenician once again. We're going to be in here. All right. Don't want a different color? Let's try to pick a different color, y'all. Let's do something like something cool, like a blue. All right. Boom. Here we go, y'all. Phoenician, and let's cook. All right. So this is First Chronicles 25 and 14. Right. And it says, the 7th of YasharAL, he, his sons, and his brother were 12. Right. Let's read in YAHAWAH'S, right? What this says. It says, Hashaba'aya, meaning the 7th. YasharALAH, the 7th who? YasharAL is who? Salat. Benayawah, his sons. Wa'akayawah, and his brothers. Shanayam, 12. Aishara. Right? So let's take this. This seems to be, let's go back to the Blue Letter Bible. Let's cook it up. The Blue Letter Bible for YasharAL. Oh, YasharAL. Let's go to, first of all, to show that this, well, let's go. YasharAL. These are upright. And who is YasharAL? A Levite and a son of Asaph, and leader of the 7th course of the musicians. Okay. Now, let's also go into the Gemini real fast. Give me a second. So it says YasharAL, right? This name found in First Chronicles 24, 15, 25, 14 has the root Yashar. Now this word YasharAL means upright. Listen, the reason why we're saying this is because remember, they told us one thing. Now we're supposed to be upright, but that we are not the children of YasharAL. You get that? And our ancestor name does not mean that. There's something going on. Somebody planted a secret secret transgression in YasharAL, very, very minute. Remember our ancestors didn't reproach the evil from little things, and then little things got greater because it was ignored, given a pass, right? So the name YasharAL, meaning straight or upright. The name is interpreted as upright toward Yahweh, or whom Yahweh makes happy. Jim and I had to go on and, tell me that I was correct. The two names, while visually similar in Hebrew, have different root words and different meanings, right? Now, I wanted to get into this real fast. All right. Let's zoom out of here a little bit. All right. Okay, so let's get into this little chart real fast. I asked you to give me a chart and show an accuracy of such. All right. Hope y'all can see that, man. Blow this up just that dark. So let's read a little bit of this. It says, so let's go into the featuring, which is, all right. So according to the modern standard for this word, Yisrael, you would have Yod, Shin, Resh, Aleph, Lamad, right? Meaning Yisrael. The root word of this is Shara. Once again, Yisrael, right? To rule or contend. Also meaning he who struggles with Yahweh or rules, right? The pronunciation is Yisrael. Now let's go to YasharAL. It would be Yod, Shin, Resh, Aleph, Lamad, and Het. Now this, I understand would, like in a English mentality of word linguistic, whatever, you would say it's just an extra letter. But our system is not based on a letter, it's based on characteristics of the letter, right? So to the naked eye, we would say it's no different. We just pronounce it YasharAL with an H. But that's not correct. This word is Yashar, meaning straight and upright. This YasharAL, upright toward Yahweh, or whom makes happy. And then in this biblical context, which we're supposed to be based on, the language, right? The scriptures, the Torah, right? We know that YasharAL, or in this case, Yisrael, right? The name given to Yahweh after his struggle with an angel, which is why his name was YasharAL, to rule with or to contend with Al. Yah, which is he, right? Shara, which is to contend, he contends, and Al, which is Al Shaddai, or Yahweh, the Almighty, Yahweh, right? That's what you're getting here. He contends with Yah, right? That's the biblical context of this man's name, YasharAL, or Yisrael, in this language, right? In these people's days, whatever. Now, this other name, which is YasharAL, is the name of a Levite musician. Once again, we see what his name is, right? Now I go on to say this chart clearly illustrates that while the names look similar and share the all component referring to Yahweh or the Almighty, their core meanings and root words are distinct. The error in this previous response was confusing the root word for Israel, which is Sarah, with the root word YasharAL, which is Yashar, right? And that chart is now accurate with what it's supposed to be about, right? All right, so My next thing is this. Now listen, y'all remember the rule here. We read the full chapter, we read the context. But for short, I want y'all to promise me you're gonna stop this video, we're gonna read, and we're gonna leave off right here. Okay. Isaiah chapter 19, starting at verse 14. Yahweh has sent the spirit of foolishness on them, so all their suggestions are wrong. They cause Egypt to stagger like a drunk in his vomit. There is nothing Egypt can do. All are helpless, the head and the tail, the noble palm branch and the lowly reed. In that day, the Egyptians will be as weak as women. They will cower in fear beneath the upraised fist of Yahweh's army, heaven of armies, of heaven's army. So just to speak the name of YasharAL will terrorize them. Just to speak the name of YasharAL will terrorize them. For Yahweh's of heaven's army has laid out his plan against them. Verse 18. In that day, 5 of Egypt's cities will follow Yahweh's heaven's army. They will even begin to speak Hebrew, the language of Canaan. One of these cities will be Heliopolis, the city of the sun. Now, let's cook real fast. They will even begin to speak Hebrew, the language of Canaan. Now, we could go and ask your modern day anyone that speak modern day Hebrew, and they will tell you that language, that script itself is not the language of Canaan, right? So one thing that I like to do is go into the interlinear and things like that, making sure that even though we have translations and things, these translations might help us in one way to have an understanding, but it's always good to go and find in a better resource of your, this language, that in language to see what words are being used, right? So it says the language Sapaha, right, of Canaan. Let's go to Canaan. We should know all of this, right? The fourth son of Ham and the progenitor of who? The Phoenicians and the various nations who peopled the seacoast of Palestine. Once again, it's what? He is the fourth son of Ham and the progenitor of the Phoenicians. Let's go ahead and ask Gemini, we ask Skid. Can you give me the same chart, but in the form of ancient, spelled that wrong, Paleo Hebrew, the Canaanite language, right? It says, providing the chart of ancient Paleo Hebrew script is fascinating and accurate way to illustrate the difference between these two names. It's important to note that Paleo Hebrew is the term for the script, which is a regional variant of a broader Proto-Canaanite script, right? Used in the region. The language itself will be an ancient form of Hebrew, which is a Canaanite language, right? So, okay, here we go. So, just like we went through the modern, we're going to go through the YAHAWAH'S as well. We'll get there. And we're going to sum all this up on why we're coming to this part. It says Paleo Hebrew script, which is a Canaanite language, right? The Canaanite language. It says, now, first of all, what you need to understand is while the original Canaanites had their own language in the context of that verse in Isaiah, we were just at, that phrase is used to refer to the language of the Israelites who inhabited the land of Canaan. All right. Just want y'all to know that. So we're gonna find out once again, sooner or later. Paleo Hebrew script for YasharAL would be YasharAL, and then the L would be silent. YasharAL, right? In contrast to YasharALAH, YasharALAH. See, the complete difference is the root words, the shar and al, meaning to rule or to contend, thus going back to Genesis 32 and 28 when he first got his name, YasharAL. He struggled, he contended with all, with Yahweh. That's what he did. He, Yah, not he as in Yah, but the word for he is also Yah. That's why you got YasharAL. He contend with all, right? Just like Yashar in the root word for YasharALAH is Yashar, meaning upright, straight, who is the Levitical priesthood, right? This is how they're supposed to be, to show people how to do this. Remember, these are musicians. YasharALAH in First Chronicles 25:14, the only place you're gonna find it. The Levites, and their job is to basically put on the biggest performance ever for Yahweh and show the people how Yahweh likes it, upright toward Yahweh, or who Yahweh makes happy, right? So with that being said, let's take a look more deep into this. Keyword notes on this chart: Paleo Hebrew characters. The characters used in the chart YasharALAH are a representation of the Paleo Hebrew script, which evolved from the Proto-Canaanite alphabet. The root words are shown in the Paleo Hebrew script to maintain consistency with the request. Notice the difference between the root word shar, right, shara, and the root for yashar, the extra ya in that later is key to its meaning. Now the H at the end of, YasharALAH or YasharALAH, however they would say it, my bad. In modern Hebrew ends with the het, which often indicates a feminine form, or in this case is part of the name, part of the name's unique morphology. This is represented by the ha at the end of the Paleo Hebrew spelling, which is the language of Canaan, right? All right. Now remember, they will even begin to speak Hebrew, the language of Canaan. Let's find out what the language we speak. It's not Lashon Kodash. It's not Arbari, Baria. It's none of that. Right. Let's take a look at Nehemiah chapter 13. Hey, look, y'all, I'm going to say it again. Go and read, pause it, read, come back. We're going to be at 23, all right? Just so you can read, know the context. In those days, also I saw the Jews, or YAHAWAH'S, right, who had married women of Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. Verse 24, and half of their children spoke the language of Ashdod, and they could not speak the language of Judah, but only the language of each people. So our people apparently didn't even know how to speak our language. We was worried about other people's languages. So let's find out what language had we not known that belonged to us. this language of Canaan, right? This language, here we go. The language of Judah, right? Yahawah Yatha. This is the language of the Israelites. It says in the Jayish language in Hebrew. Basically, it's ours. Now, you know I got to go to the other side, right? So we can nip this in the bud also. Because I know the next thing will be, this is too complicated. This is why Zephaniah 3 and 9 has to happen to give us a pure speech. But this pure speech still has to come back around. I understand that. Whatever that pure speech may mean to you guys. But in these end times, apparently, this language, the language of Canaan, which is the Hebrews, the so-called Hebrews, We YasharAL, right? The sons of YasharAL, this language has to come back around. It just so happened to be connected with the Torah, right? The ancient. The ancient. All right. Let me take this off. Okay. So let's read Nehemiah 13 and 24. It says, let me make sure this is right. Okay, not down here. All right. So it says, go to the, okay, there we go. Make sure we got the Phoenician, aka the YAHAWAH'S. Let's see if this is the language. Wabanayam of their children, Kasaya have Madabara or Madabar, which is spoke. So when you see the bar, it means to speak. All right, cool. All right, Ashadawadyata, the language of Ashad, right? Wa'ayanam, but could not Makayarayam, could not speak, could not Ladabar speak. Speak what? What could they not have spoken? Yahawah Daya, Hebrew, the language of the Hebrews. Yahawah Daya. Even the people that would hang on to the modern Hebrew would say Yehudi. This is their language, not Hebrew. Yahawah Daya. Hebrew is Ibarya. All right, Ibarya. I might have to do a separate thing on that. Right? So the language that we speak is the language of the Canaanites is what? Is not Abarya. It's not Lashan Kodash. It's called Yahawah. All right. This language has to come back around. Look at this last letter. The name of the nation ends with the La or Lamar. That name you talking about ends with a Ha. YasharAL. That's the name of a nation, YasharAL, and the name of a person within the nation, YasharAL. That one letter, right, makes two totally different names for two totally different people. You can't be a nation just because your name sounds familiar. The Hebrew itself proves, or shall I say the YAHAWAH'S, that you not the nation, you the magician. You know what I'm saying? Now look, man. It's not just a pronunciation thing. The whole name is different from the ground up. Listen, the nation's name starts with the La, YasharAL. That's a hard L at the end. YasharAL. YasharAL. Right? The other one, it's like literally, it completely changes the meaning as soon as you put the ha there. It's like the difference between man and men, one letter, two totally different things, right? Now let's put this in perspective with these names, bro. Now, YasharAL, or Yisrael, or it's really YasharAL, YAHAWAH'S name, right? This name means he struggles with Yah. He struggles with Yahweh. He struggles with all. It's a personal name, a trophy he got after a literal wrestling match, bro. You know what I mean? It's a name that tells his life story, bro. It's like his new identity. It's what he earned. He didn't wrestle with this angel for his children to come back and say they the children of people out inside of his nation. He's the nation of YasharAL. Now, granted, YasharALAH, his name was a mission statement. His whole life was about singing and playing music to show everyone that Yahweh is upright. YasharALAH, that's not the main character. You know what I mean? These two words, YasharALAH and YasharAL. YasharALAH is a musician, a Levite son. YasharAL is a nation, and the descendants, the name of the descendants of the nation of YAHWAH is what? YasharAL. You know what I mean? Make sure y'all see this. Somebody within the nation that has some ties to the language or whatever, God, they doing something, man. Because this should be something that everyone has already known. If we have teachers out here that are so stumped and give all praises to the Most High, and they come and say that they come into the children of YasharALAH, you know, I mean, either we gonna do this all the way or we not gonna do it at all. It's not about how you want to pronounce it. It's about what's on this in these scriptures. Remember, YasharAL is a nation's name. YasharALAH is a musician's name. YasharAL is the founder. His name is a personal story, bro, about transformation. And YasharAL is like, he's Yahweh's, he's a statement of Yahweh's character, praising Yahweh's character. And his job was to serve the nation, not to be a nation itself. You know what I mean? So look, Hosea 14:9. Maya Akam Wayaba Allah Nabawan Wayada'ain Kayayashayu Darak Kaya Yahweh Wasadak Kwaya Yala Kwa YasharAL. YasharAL. Whoever is wise, let him understand these things. Whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of Yahweh are right, and the upright walk in them, but transgressors stumble in them. Yashar, Yashar. The upright will understand. You know what I mean? Yashar, Yashar. Straight, upright, correct, right, straight, level, right, pleasing, correct, straightforward, just, upright, fitting, proper, uprightness, righteous, upright, that which is upright. That is our duty to be, of course. But who are we? Who are we? YasharAL. YasharAL. The name of the descendants and the nation of the descendant of Yaquab. That's who we are, man. So, hey, somebody got to explain something to me. Somebody got to let me know, how did the nation of YasharAL waking up to who they are get tricked into calling themselves a tribe of Levites that were upright in Yahweh's eyes and were their name meant upright with Yahweh. They were the Levitical people. Our goal is to become YasharAL. That's not a name of a nation. It's the highest expectation of the nation. YasharAL, the upright. But YasharAL is about struggling, bro. It's about the struggle. Living upright, of course. But that root word, Shara, it's about the struggle, man. You know what I mean? We got to figure out who did this. Somebody told us something. Somebody's trying to misguide us for some reason. I don't know. Or am I looking at it too deep? It seemed to me some confusion is trying to go on amongst the people. Ask your teachers, what's going on with this? You told me we the nation of YasharAL, and I thought I could depend on you to tell me the truth. So anyway, you know what I mean? I ain't saying I got all the answers. You know, I'm learning. Y'all see my little choppy Yahawah, you know what I mean? But hey, it's a process. It's a mission. It's a step. You know what I mean? It's a struggle. Our land was taken from us, our language, but it's been there. We just got to find it. You know what I mean? Hey, I pray the Most High blesses you and keep you in perfect peace. It's your brother, His will, with another impelling idea. Shalom.